to look familiar.
Yep.
You know how it goes. Okay. Well, for Scott and Debra's sake, and David, when you know, in case you hadn't heard one of the previous meetings, the Rocky Mountain Inventors Association was originally founded in 1978, so we've been around for about 38 years now. Roger Jackson and I have been involved for about 19 years, I think, at this point. 18 years, 99, 60, 98, 99, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I guess 16.
Yeah. And with the economy, things go up and down, and sometimes you know, there are a lot of inventors looking to put things out there, and recently a lot of legislation has curtailed some of the inventors, and summertime is not conducive to a lot of people in meetings. But we really appreciate the fact that Debra and Scott are here to talk, and looking forward to hearing what they have to say. But if you have an invention and you haven't filed for a patent, it's not patent pending, then you don't want to discuss the specifics about that invention, the function, how it functions, because you start triggering certain timelines for your patenting process, and you may end up losing the ability to patent if you disclose too early. So showing prototypes and that is not encouraged without non-disclosure agreements, signed non-disclosure agreements. The meeting, usually we give a brief introduction about Rocky Mountain Inventors Association, introduce each person here, and just a little bit about what you're doing or why you're here. And then we have the presenter, and we'll have a break a little more than halfway through. Restrooms are around the corner here, so if you're looking for that, they're there. And the last half of the meeting is usually open discussion about whatever event interests you. But when we have really great speakers, we let them have as much time as they like. I'm Bonnie Griffin-Cake, and my involvement with inventors has been for about 20 years now. I first became interested in the inventors because I left General Electric Company in a marketing capacity, and was looking for a new career, and I started consulting. And I noticed there was a conference for inventors here in town, and I thought, this is a great opportunity, people launching new products, because that's my expertise, is in technical marketing. And I noticed on the agenda there were no speakers about commercialization or marketing. And I thought, why do you want to invent something if you don't do something with it? And unfortunately, what I found is that most inventors have the mistaken belief that if they come up with something and get a patent, people are going to come knock the door down with money and ready to go, and that does not happen. You're more likely to be successful with a product if you actually launch it. So that's what I've done for the last 20 years, is help people launch new products, and that involves individual inventors as well as companies, large companies. I've worked with corporations in getting new products on the market as well, and helping them with the marketing of those. So I've been president of the Rocky Mountain Inventors Association, also involved on the national level, and have a book out. I think, David, you're aware of the book that I have here, Richard? Secrets of Successful Inventing. This was done by 16 experts in the field of launching new products in the United States, and it was launched, actually went on Amazon. It was available November of this last year. You can get them here at the meeting for $20 if you want. Okay. With that, I'll let Roger introduce himself.
Roger Jackson, and Bonnie said we started in June '99.
Next summer
day. And of course, she was the only marketing person. I was one of like a dozen.
There's a lot of patent attorneys at that time.
About these people, and I chased them all off. I just held fast to them. But anyway, the group's been through a lot of iterations through the years. We've tried a lot of things. You know, I think the main thing we do
like this, even though the roof might be steeple,
Oh, wow.
so, or whatever pitch,
Uh-huh.
could be a 12-12. And, like 4-12 is easy enough to walk on anyway, so we don't need that. But for certain pitches, and for a painter, that's what I do for a living, I have use for it. So basically works better on a wood shingle or a shingle, asphalt shingle. Anything that you can put a nail into, but then you need to seal it with silicone or something to seal the holes. Other than that, it just adjusts to the different pitches.
Sounds good. Do you have any on the market yet?
Not on the market, but I've got 5 of them built,
Good.
and so I'm assuming that as soon as I put it on the market, they're gonna just knock down my door.
Oh, of course they will, right? A whole line out the door.
But I did discuss it with somebody at, Dish.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they put up satellite dishes on roofs and all that sort of
Oh,
thing.
yes.
I thought that'd be great for them. So.
It'd be nice if you get in there.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be something that they could use, a person that would be working on a chimney, like a bricklayer, stucco guy, firefighter, probably need it.
Solar installers.
Yeah, solar panel installers.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have 2 of them, you can put a plank across it, so you can use it that way.
They're that secure.
Yes. I can dance on it.
Oh, that's fascinating.
There's all kinds of uses.
Yeah. That's wonderful.
So bring one in.
Yeah, I'd like to see it.
Okay.
Yeah, very much so.
Next meeting.
Yeah, we'd love to see it. Get some feedback now that you have it patent pending.
Yeah, it's patent pending.
Sure.
I've gone through everything.
Super. Well,
Roger.
tell you a little bit about our speakers this evening. Scott and Debra Johnson. They are now speakers, they're also authors, also entrepreneurs. I hate to, miss that on your thing, and I inserted it into the, but you really are entrepreneurs, and that's what it takes for whether you're an inventor or you're doing any other type of business endeavor. Being an entrepreneur, you sort of are a jack of all trades for a while until you build your business or your product launch to a point where you can start adding staff members and grow. Well, I'm sure that Deb and Scott have a lot of information for us. They inspire and empower people to take action, so that what you once thought was impossible becomes possible. And they're going to tell us about the 5 deadly traps that keep you stuck, how to turn your obstacles into opportunities, and Deborah's 3 keys to living a joy-filled life. We all need that. And Scott's 5 laws of recognition that will empower you and move you along. Scott and Deborah's mission is to connect people to their potential and purpose to live an effective life. Has spoken in business leader conferences in the Philippines and in Uganda and throughout the United States. They do this through their seminars, workshops, and books, and the books they have written. Breaking the cycle of defeat, empowering living beyond your limitations, unlimited view overcoming obstacles in your own life, and a ninja video marketing info guide, some of the things that they have written, and also crowdfund 2.0 launch formula. So that sounds like it fits quite well right here. So I'm going to turn it over to Scott and Debra, and I can't wait to hear what you've got to tell us.
Well, Deborah and I are really glad to be here with all of you this morning, or to this evening. And my head right in that way, so we're going to have to do one of these.
Is there a notes for you to take and write down?
Yes, there will be a test afterwards. me see those books. The books that were just outlined are some of the ones that we first started with. I have another one that I wrote prior to this, and Debra, you can obviously come up anytime. This one is Breaking the Cycle of Defeat, How to Live a Life of Limitless Possibility. It's more of a Bible perspective. This is a really good book. This book, we're talking about ideas and being able to create. This, the original book, you know, I always knew I was an author, wanted to be an author, and so I worked on a book for years, and I finally got it out and produced, and I did all the printing myself. This was before it used to be, now it's so much easier, and so I actually had an idea to create a relationship, and we printed them out of Sourcepedia, and we ended up later trading out. See, we got to do what we need to do to get where we need to go. And so I traded out the printing and the cutting and everything from the Sourcepedia in exchange for painting this guy's basement up in Larkspur, yeah. So me and a friend went up there and we knocked that thing out in less than half a day, a huge, big basement. And of course, it took him a little bit more work to do this, but great guy. But then later on, I rewrote the entire thing and renamed it, and this was the end result. That took a while to put together, but then this one took 5 weeks. So once you do something one time, it's easier what? The next time. So this one, how many pages is in that?
185.
So this is 202 in 5 weeks, okay? It doesn't mean it was in my hand 5 weeks, it was written 5 weeks and then handed it to the editor. This is Empowered Living Beyond Your Limitations. And of course, then we wrote, I wrote this Ninja Video Marketing Info Guide. I don't really market that. It's just a thin book I use just to open doors.
It's all about what do you need to know about video marketing your product.
And this one's called Unlimited You, Overcoming Obstacles, and we co-authored this one. And then most recently, what I'm most excited about right now is Crowdfund 2.0 Launch Formula. How many have heard of crowdfunding? And I thought, well, I almost was going to talk about crowdfunding, and then we went with a different direction. But if you want to know more about this, we brought copies, six copies of this, and we can talk about this later if there's time.
Or another time you can come
Right.
back.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about the difference between this, I call it 2.0 because it's a new platform that's unlike anything else out there. So,
Real recent?
yeah, well, this year.
Okay, that's recent.
Yeah, it is very recent.
All right. Before I get started, we were driving here, and we were talking about something that just happened on July 4th. And how many of you went out of town July 4th? What did you guys do? Stayed in town, barbecued? Went out of town? Or you moved? Well, it's interesting. We thought it would be a great story because we were driving out towards Strasburg, we're up Highway 70, and we were on a frontage road, and the strangest thing happened. I looked in my rearview mirror, and wouldn't you know it, there was a highway patrolman following me. And you know how you get, there's a patrolman get close, and then they're like, should I pull over? Should I speed up? Should I, and your heart's doing this. And so ended up, I was paying so much attention to him in the rearview mirror that there was a pheasant jolted across the road in front of me, and I hit him with my bumper. And he flipped over, went over my hood behind me, and hit the officer's windshield. A pheasant.
Oh my.
Freaked me out. I just, what could get worse than that, right? So he puts his lights on and pulls me over. Pulls me over, gets out his car, walks up, knocks on my window. Of course, I was starting to put it down as much fast as I could. And I says, "What, officer, are you pulling me over? What did I do?" And he says, "You flipped me the bird."
I should have said you had a pheasant on your car.
So, you never know what'll happen. Well, we're going to talk about a lot of different things, and we'll probably go on and off topic. And I'm hoping that a lot of this will work for you, will encourage you to help you move forward, no matter what it is you're trying to achieve and what you're trying to do. And we're going to talk a little bit about the law of recognition, okay? And there's several of them, and the first one I want to talk with you about is ideas or a dime a dozen. And I know you guys have heard this over and over in here, okay? I just kind of got that feeling that you guys have been here, done that. So, ideas are a dime a dozen, and it just reminds me of a story of Joe Saba, and I know one of us here know who Joe Saba is. And it was interesting because when he was a young man sitting still, now how old is Joe? 84 years old. And he was sitting in class in elementary school. I don't know if it was a one-room school or what back then. But he was sitting in class, and as he sat there, kids were going up to the front of the room to sharpen their pencils, okay? And so back then they had the little turn thing, and until the interesting was is he sat there and he started looking at that and started thinking, well, I wonder what would happen. I mean, why hasn't anybody ever put a motor to that thing, right? And make a electrical device. And so while he was sitting there, he took his piece of paper out and he started to draw on that paper the first electric, you didn't know this, did you?
No.
The first electric pencil sharpener. How would you like to invent something like that?
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as he drew it out, and he looked at that, he goes, you know how he does,
Yeah.
Wow. And so what happened was the thing went off, the bell, for lunch when we switched classes or something, right? The bell went off, and you know what he did? He got out of his chair, took the piece of paper, crunched it up, threw it away. So, ideas are a dime a dozen, right? But what's the difference?
But the person that puts it into practice is priceless.
It's priceless. The person who puts it into practice is priceless. Deborah has an uncle, and many years ago, he was a concrete guy, right? So they went in afterwards, and as a new construction, they would clean off the concrete. So he came up, and he used to use a kind of a wand, a high-pressured wand, and they would spray it off, and they used chemicals to clean that concrete off. And him and his brother owned this business, and as they were out there working, he came up with this idea, and he thought, I wonder if we could do something like this, but for the homeowner, something they could clean their home and reach up. And so he and his brother invented a thing called Jet-X sprayer. Okay, ever hear of Jet-X sprayer? High pressure hose, comes up with a little thing with soap and cleanser in it, and they literally invented that and mass marketed. This is Deborah's your uncle. Mass marketed this. It was all on television as we grew up as kids. And so this was just one idea that somebody had, and they took action. I don't know what the process, what that looked like. And back then, I'm sure things had drastically changed. But him and his uncle brought that to market and became literally millionaires. And they, been to their house when we were dating, and we used to go. In fact, they bought a thing called Jet-X. It was a Flying X Fringe up in Wyoming, and it was kind of a country club thing. And so we did our honeymoon there. So can you believe it? What an exotic spot to go have your honeymoon out in the middle of winter. But But it just goes to show you that all of us, and we can all here probably have, story after story after story of ideas and concepts and things that we come up with, and I could give you a lot because I'm a very creative person. And so I won't bore you because I'm in a room full of other creative people, and I know you guys got just as many great stories. But the biggest difference of all is putting those things into practice, right? So we're going to talk about law of attraction 2. The windows, I call it the windows of heaven are open. This is kind of fits because we happen to be inside of a church. And it starts out, the story starts out with this guy, this prophet. And he was out on the edge of the city, out on a cliff. He got up off of his knees and he spoke and he said, "The windows of heaven are open." And he told his servant to run. Actually, he was inside a little hut. And he told his servant, "Go out and see if there was rain." And see, there was like 3 years of drought in that area. 3 years of drought. There hadn't been a drop of rain. And so he had been, he was, I guess, in prayer, and the king told his servant, "Now, the drought has ended. Go out and look for rain." And so if you're familiar with the story, the servant went outside, looked in the skies, and there was not a cloud in the sky. Not one. He ran back in and he says to the prophet, he says, but there's no rain. There's not even a cloud. He says, "Go out and look again." And he told him to do that 7 times, to look at the skies. And the 7th time he went out there, he came back and he says, "I see a cloud the size of a man's hand." And when that took place, that drought was broken, and it was just a huge, just rain and rain and rain. But the fact is that as we grow up out of our childhood, it seems that, we look at ourselves as adults and we have drought. It seems like we don't have a drought of rain, but we have a drought of ideas. A drought of ideas as we grow older. I can remember growing up as a child having all kinds of ideas about what I could do and what I could create. And as we grow up, we stop acting as quickly as we once did, where it comes to the creative thoughts and ideas that we once had. Do you know a guy named Goddard? Goddard, he created the first rocket, jet-propelled rocket. And as a kid, 8 years old, I was enthralled by that guy and his story. And I went home, I said, "I'm going to build that thing." And I don't know, in the child's mind, you don't know that anything's not impossible. And so I went out in that backyard, I got all the pieces, the materials, I studied the books, and I was, how am I going to do this? A tank and the pressure and all this. But I had something built, never shut off, but it did in my mind. It didn't fly in my mind. So there's creative ideas that happen all the time as we grow up, but they begin to dissipate. It's funny, we start out in life with a pencil and writing down our dreams and ideas and our visions. And as we grow up, we take that same pencil and we turn it around and we take the eraser side of it and we start erasing those dreams, visions, and ideas, thinking that they're not possible. And see, life has a way of just tearing you down and really, especially if you're dealing with a lot of failure, moving towards your ideas and your dreams. But the thing is that there's nothing that has ever taken place in this world unless it first started out, number one, as a dream, and it never took place until after there was many, many failures. You've heard, this, of course, this story of Edison and others who have tried. They just wouldn't let go of the idea, the concept. And I remember, as a roofer, growing up on the side of that roof. Before there was, we had staple guns, but an automatic, some way to take a roofing nail and nail those tabs on without staples. And every time I hit it with a hammer, I would imagine and think and, dream, and I had this thing worked out in my brain of how this thing was going to work. So that's things that all of us, that's life. That's how we are created to be. Okay. Some people say, well, there's something special about you because you're creative and you have these ideas. I don't really think that is. I think that all of us have the capacity to do great things. So, dream. I want to talk about in this section here, under the law of recognition, the windows of heaven are open, 5 rules that will help you along the way. Number 1, believe that you are the same person that had all those wonderful creative ideas when you were young. Hasn't changed. You are the same person. The only thing that's changed maybe is the types of labels that you believed about yourself. Okay? So as you grow up, there's different labels that people put on you. And if you're creative, if you're an ideal person, if you're a dreamer, you're going to have people that will shun that, will actually put that down. And I had that growing up. People said, well, this is where you belong. Why are you doing that? And what it does is it diminishes your capacity to dream, because you begin to question yourself, right? So, I don't know that any of us should, think, well, we should struggle to have one idea. I think that as humans, we all have the capacity to be continually having ideas and creative thoughts and ways to get things done, ways to look at things differently. It's just that we stepped out of those things, that area, when we were young. It came more natural to us when we were young. Insight key number 2, let go of preconceived notions that cause you to doubt and prejudge the ideas that come to you. This is a big thing. We talk about it, we're working as a team, and you got a mastermind together, and you're going, well, there's no bad idea here in this room. When we walk into this room, there is no bad ideas, period. So we throw everything out onto the board. Every idea, every concept. Insight key number 3, even though it says 2. Let go of preconceived notions that cause you to doubt and prejudge the ideas that come to you. And so this goes along with something I said a little earlier. Don't prejudge yourself. You see, there's nobody standing around you. The people will disqualify you all the time. But the bottom line, stop disqualifying yourself. Right? Stop disqualifying yourself. And children never learn the phrase, no, it can't be done. No, it can't be done. It's interesting, I look back at some of the things that we did as, not just, about when growing up as a kid and some of the ideas and creative ideas, from, I think when I was 9, 10 years old or some 11, I ran across a thing on my mother's dresser, little thing, a piece of paper, and it's a regular piece of paper, and it says, lose 10 pounds in 10 days. And it was a diet plan, which was basically a grapefruit diet plan. And so I had this idea that I could take that and put an ad in the paper. So I called the Rocky Mountain News or the Denver Post, and I put an ad in there that says, lose 10 pounds, 10 days, send $1. And self-addressed envelope.
Oh, no.
And people were sending me money in the mail, right? So creating something out of nothing is possible, even for a kid, right? And, that was just one of many ideas. I mean, after we were married, I remember we were struggling young couple and thinking, how in the world are we going to make some money? And so I thought, well, here's what we're going to do. So I went out and bought myself an battery-operated drill, which was the new back then, right? Put it on your belt. And then I went on to the hardware store down off Calumet, for wholesale, and bought peepholes, for doors. And so we would go out at night or during the day, different times, and she would go on one side of the street and I'd go on the other, knocking on doors, and I would say, peepholes for people. $14.95, be done in less than 15 minutes. So we installed peepholes just to be able to generate income and money for ourselves, to be able to just to raise our family, our young family. So remember, it can be done. The windows of heaven are open. There is not, don't believe the lie that there's a drought of ideas. So, most of the battle that we have is where? In our heads. So there is, say this after me, there is an abundance of ideas in my head. So better ways to do things as a patent attorney, right? Systems, things that will get the job, and there's different ways to market, enhance what it is you're doing, trying to reach your audience. There's different ways to create things, different ways of looking at stuff. So the windows of heaven are open. Insight, key number 3, know and believe that you have the capacity to create something out of nothing. It's on the inside of you. It's a present reality. You're not trying to get somewhere, right? Sometimes we think, well, only if I could come up with that idea, or maybe I could, and we think it's somewhere out there in the future. But when you begin to take the ideas and concepts, the very belief that says, no, I have everything I have need of right now in my life to get what I need to be to done, right? So the capacity to create something out of nothing is there. And if you know the right keys of how to, turn loose those ideas and allow your subconscious mind to bring the answers to you, they'll be there.
What you say is, I'm kind of thinking about that inventor's existence is a lonely, singular creation.
What's
Like
that?
you said, it's a lonely existence. It's like you have a vision or an idea. People shoot you down or say no, no, no. You have to singularly persist and believe in that.
Actually, yeah, and the only thing that's going to bring it down is the words of other people spoken to you that you embrace. Okay?
Good point.
Because people there'll always be people to shout you down. Okay, from growing up as your parents, to coworkers, to people, your friends, and it's amazing how much self-doubt that we deal with as humans. And we just came from a meeting last night where these kids came out of camp, and it was, what was the title? It was Pitch Perfect, based on the movie Pitch Perfect. But it was really about harmonizing yourself, getting yourself in harmony the way the Creator, where God has it's because we believe a lie. We believe lies about ourselves, we believe lies about our abilities, we believe lies about all kinds of things about ourselves, and those are the things that stifle us from limitless living. And so when we get an idea that we were created as beings without limitations, and the only limitations there are the ones of self-imposed limitations, when we get those things, we set those things aside. We begin to look in the eyes of the Creator and he says, you're perfect. I created you perfect. I gave you the capacity to grow and to create and to do, Look at every other thing on this planet. Think about it. All of the just the stars and the light of the moon, and the very biology of our world, and the existence of everything playing out in perfection to each other. There's not one atom that's randomly, not doing anything. Everything flows in harmony. And yet, as humans, we look in the mirror with self-doubt. where it concerns our capacity. Is that interesting? I don't care how old we are, that's something that we need to deal with. And so that's one of the reasons I wrote Empowered, Living Beyond Your Limitations. Insight key number 4, have confidence that inspired ideas will come. Have confidence that inspired ideas will come. Inspired ideas. Wow. I can't remember if I talked more about, I think I do a little later here, but this is the key to your taking action. And I think I got it up here. Let me talk about it, and if it is, we'll deal with it. Inspired ideas come because of information. Okay? Information. So if you have an idea or a concept or something, you're not sure exactly how you're going to make this work, what are you going to do? You're going to think about it, you're going to read about it, you're going to contemplate, you're going to meditate, you're going to do all those things consciously, on a conscious level. But it isn't until you begin to relax after that. So I go through just a brain purge. Just information and thinking and thoughts, but it isn't until maybe a day or two later when I'm relaxed and all of a sudden you're in the shower and you've had this happen, all of a sudden you go, boom, I got it. I got an idea. Most of the things that I create and do come out of when I wake up in the morning, because my subconscious never sleeps. It just creates and comes and solves the puzzles of life. So if you know that, then you also know the next key, and that is to take action. Take action on inspired thoughts. Don't just say, well, that's a great idea. If you need to get up in the middle of the night, get up in the middle of the night and write it down. Why? Because studies show and prove that inspired ideas will dissipate and begin to dissipate in a 12-hour period. Within 12 hours, it'll have a haze over the idea. It won't have the spark or the energy that it had when you first had the idea. Remember when you had the idea? It was exciting, it was motivating, something was moving on the inside of you. You said, that's it, I can't wait to get started. And then life crowds in. The spouse needs you to take care of the kids. There's a phone call. And 12 hours later you're going, what was that? Oh yeah. But 24 hours, you don't do that for 24 hours, you won't even hardly remember. Maybe you'll remember, but it won't have any energy behind it. Important. Key number 5, you got to have ambition. Ambition. Okay? I listened to a guy the other day, a video on Dan Kennedy, marketer, and I was shocked, and I guess I shouldn't have been shocked, but he said only 5% of the people in this world are success-oriented. He said he used the word less than 5%, and sometimes 1%. The people in our country are success-oriented. What is success-oriented? Success-oriented is you're pursuing knowledge to better yourself. You're picking up books and listening to audios about how to enhance and be a creator, a producer. Okay? Things like with what's that one we just got? Success Principles by Mark Victor Hansen. Great book. Great book. One of the first things, a big chunk of his book, the very first chapter is all about taking responsibility for yourself. Big lesson. Less than 5% of people are success-oriented. You got to pursue knowledge. If you're going to guess who's the ones that actually produce and do things, the major breakthroughs? The 5%. Okay? So no wonder the crowd out here is saying, the negativity and the people that say it can't be done and why are you doing that and why don't you give up? Well, I'm a 5%er. See, I never realized that until, years ago, my wife and I, we were selling wireless Reese's cookware. We'd go to people's homes and they'd have dinner and we cook a big feast. Remember those?
Yeah.
And we tell them about the things they need to know, enhance their life, about what cookware can do for them and how it can enhance their life, how they don't want to eat out of those old aluminum pans because it'll cause Alzheimer's. And we saw them a $1,600 set of cookware. And I was discouraged because I wasn't selling enough. I thought, wow, we're a failure. We're just like struggling. We're doing parties and things, but the mailman came one day and he had a little magazine from the company, and lo and behold, my picture was there. And it wasn't until that moment I said, wow, I'm a 20%er and I didn't even know it. 28 rule. I'm a 20%er and I didn't even know it. So you're already a success, and the game of success starts right here. In your thoughts, attitudes, mindsets. Ambition comes from the deep-seated desires that materialize the object or aim of the endeavors that exist in our minds. What is the deep-seated desire that you have on the inside of you? It's that magic that creates and materializes the object or aim of your endeavor. Okay, it starts right there. Okay? So let's go back to the law of recognition. I think this is number 3. Opportunities happen when you are in what? Motion. You're moving forward. You're taking steps. You're doing something. See, this is the key to inspiration. Because inspiration necessitates that you take action. See, remember the 12 hours and the 24 hours it's gone? You have that long to take action. What kind of action can you take? Anybody? On an idea. Somebody.
Put a plan in place.
What's that? Put a plan in place?
Plan in place.
Okay. Take action. Huh?
Execute the plan.
Yeah. Just simply writing it down.
That's what I was gonna say.
Just take your pencil out and write it down.
Draw it out or write it down, outline it.
Yeah, outline it, put it on a schedule.
There you go.
Talk about it to people.
Talk about it, well, the right people.
You can't do that.
Right? So you're going to take and this is what I was talking about earlier. It's important that you act upon inspiration that's coming into your life. How many times? When?
Every day.
Every day. Is there an inspiration should be taking place in your life every day? Are you journaling every day? Are you letting life crowd in on you and rob you of what God, your Creator, created you to be? Each of us have personal interests in our lives that cause us to reach for information on a continual basis. Okay? Here's our 12 hours. It's hazy and lost. In 24 hours, it's gone. Just say goodbye. Goodbye. Turn around, look at that door. Back there. See it's open. Go ahead. Say goodbye. Idea. It was nice knowing you. Future. Your future just left you. The law of recognition number 4. Money is representation of what? Value. Value. So the idea and the concepts that you have, what do? They create value. And you trade that value for money. So based on the type of value you're adding to the marketplace is the kind of value, that kind of money you're going to receive back. You add little value to people's lives around you, what do you get back? Little. If you add big value. Now we're talking about, this is not ideas, we're talking about everything. We're talking about relationships. You add value to the people you're married to, your significant other, whoever, and you add value to their lives, what it's going to pay back dividends. Okay? So our number one goal when we wake up in the morning is to add value to people's lives around us. See, Debra and I were here tonight simply because we want to add value to your life. So we're going to add pile on as much value as we can get, so we can help move you forward into your destiny. Your ideas are worth something only if they're adding value. So number one, from concept to what? From idea to concept. Concept of what's the next step? Huh?
Writing it down.
Write it down and begin to. So, one thing I learned in my life, because there's been times in all our lives that we get depressed, discouraged, we get despondent, we just crash, crumble. Then I learned that I heard this little voice that said to me, Scott, just do something. I don't care what it is, but I don't have nothing to give to the world. I have nothing to give to anybody. I was reminded of that story of Moses. And God said, what do you have in your hand? What do you have in your hand? He says, a staff. Raise the staff up. Throw it down. And the miracles happen as a result of him using what's in his hand. So you have to look at yourself and say, what's in my hand? What is in your hand? What can you move? What can you do? I don't care if it's the tip of your little finger, being able to move it to add value to somebody around you. Do it. You can, this little finger can move this little. I know a guy, he has no arms, no legs, and he's having a huge impact on the world. Named Nick Richardson. Say that 10 times. No arms, no legs, no future. That's what he thought. He's the man, he's filling stadiums, touching people's lives, encouraging them, telling them it's possible. You can do all things. Incredible things. So to create money, just create value for other people. Be a problem solver. Okay? So everybody around us, we're looking for people to solve our problems, aren't we? How come she's not solving my problem? How come he's not doing more for me? Solve other people's problems. You were created, put on this planet to solve problems. Everything in its creation was created to solve a problem. Painters solve what kind of problems? Right? Roofers they solve problems for people. Everybody solves. Even the grass on your lawn outside solves a problem for somebody. Someone baking on the side of the street, and they walk up to your door and ask you for maybe a helping hand. They walk across the lawn that needed mowed. They see a whole shovel in Colorado. They knock on the door that needed painted. Solve problems. To create money, just create value for others. What am I really good at? Ask yourself the question, what am I really good at? What am I good at? And number two, does this cause people in my target market pain? Is there an ouch? Thirdly, does it cause enough pain that they're willing to spend money on it to resolve it? Weight loss product solve a pain for some people, right? So what am I really good at? You have to actually get a piece of paper out. I'm telling you, otherwise, see, this creative plot, there's inspiration happening right now. And when you get home, all this stuff will be, oh, that was really good. That was really good. But you got to put it on a piece of paper. Start taking action. Start writing down, what am I good at? Just pick every day for 4 days. What am I good at? Ask your friends, what am I good at? And then, does this cause people in my target market pain? The things that what I'm good at resolving. And then you gotta ask, does it create enough value that people are willing to resolve it with money? Okay? So law recognition number 5, the power of incubation. The subconscious mind is a powerful force that works for you 24 hours a day. It never sleeps. 7 days a week. It is the master genie in the bottle currently at work right now in your life. It causes you to instantly see things that nobody else can see around you because you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Okay? There's something special and unique about you. Say that. Say, there's something special about me.
Special about me.
There's something unique about me. I see things that other people can't see.
I see things other people can't see.
All right, so the law of recognition, 5 deadly traps that keep you stuck. I think that's yours. No, that's mine. The trap of having no vision. The Bible says where there's no vision, there's no, people perish. Why? And it's a whole thing there. So you gotta write it down. The trap of thinking you have no choice. I have no choice. Life is too big. Life is, I'm overwhelmed. I have no choices. I have no choices. That's the biggest lie there is in the world. I have no choices. You always have a choice. Just life has crowded itself around you in your mind and you can't see those choices. Sometimes you gotta leave your current place, take a break, go to the mountains, get by a river, get clear, so you can begin to see life differently. The trap of waiting for things to get better. We've all been there, huh? One of these days, Debra, we'll do that. If it gets better, we'll do that. The trap of having a lack of focus. These are big things, guys, that stop us. The trap of negative, toxic people. We could talk about that for a while, but we won't. You got that all this down? So, I'm going to have Debra come up and talk with you about this is the button.
So, I have 3 tips that I share all the time to
Button on the side.
people. I speak all over the city to Kiwanis clubs, Optimist clubs, Lions clubs, and I share my tips on how to have a joyful, happy life. And when you're in the midst of creating products and inventions or businesses and marketing, obstacles and all kinds of things come our way, and it makes you discouraged and down, depressed, fearful. Those are big things that really affect. The mental hospitals are filled with people because of they're not taking my 3 tips that I have created. And they really do work, and you can take it home now. The first one is, what do you see? What are you looking at? What are you focusing on? Joe Saba wanted to hire me to make phone calls to people for his database. And I was afraid of the phone. I literally had a fear of the phone. Because whenever I called as a child home, my mom would yell at me, and she was always angry at me, would yell at me, and so subconsciously I created a fear of calling people on the phone, because I thought that person would be angry with me, yell at me, reject me. So I would always have Scott call the person for me to make sure they were in a good mood before I talked to them, because I couldn't handle someone yelling at me. And so I ended up working with Joe, and he said, see the people on the other end of the phone. They are looking forward to talking to you. They want what you have to offer them. They are happy. No one's going to yell at you anymore. Just in your mind, visualize and see them happy and excited. So I started doing that. It took me a while, one phone call at a time. But every time, the people were like my best friend. They were excited to hear from me. Oh, thank you, Debra, for calling. Thank you. And they're so friendly. And so it just changed my whole perspective on what are you looking at? What do you see? Are you looking at the speck on the windshield? Because if you're looking at the negative thing, if you're looking at the thing that's causing you to fear the most, it will grow into a giant monster in your brain. You'll see this giant scary thing, and it's just all in your imagination. So if you look at the happy people, that, you know, the good part of whatever the fear is, it will just dissolve. It'll just go away because you're not giving attention to that. This is a picture. What do you see in this picture? It's either an old lady or a young lady. It's both. So what are you looking at? The key to success is to focus our conscious minds on things we desire, not things we fear. So that's the first tip. The second tip is be happy. I did a huge study on laughing. I found out that laughter relaxes all the muscles and tendons in your body, and most people, they did a study that cancer and diabetes, heart attacks, strokes, is all major, bottom line, is caused by stress. And stress is because you're not being happy. You're fearing, you're worried, you're thinking of negative things, and you're never laughing. But they found through a study that laughter is like medicine. It actually heals you, and it will rejuvenate you and create the creativity enough to blossom and to come forth. So spend time laughing. Be with people that are laughing and encouraging you to laugh, because that is, to me, I have found that number one source of dissolving depression and all this negative stuff that affects us. So on that paper I passed out, write things that you could make happy. Kids can make you happy, your pets. You know, what are you passionate about? What do you love to do? And spend time with that. And then last is gratitude. Gratitude, when you're just every day you should write a journal of what makes you thankful. What am I thankful for? Even if it's just being alive. You know, there's so many things to be thankful for, and if you don't recognize that and think about that and just speak it, and if you see people, just tell them how thankful you are to what they have done for you, because it will rejuvenate you as well. So write down every day what you are thankful for. And those 3 tips, I guarantee, will change your life.
Thank you, Debra. So your obstacles are only what you see when you take your eyes off the goal. Isn't that interesting? What time is it? Where are we at on our clock? 8 what?
You got 40 minutes.
We have another 40 minutes?
No, I mean, you can.
So it's true. Your obstacles are what you see. Now there's Jim Rohn. How many of you heard of Jim Rohn? Jim Rohn. And the amazing thing is, he said, and I put this in our book on Unlimited You, Overcoming Obstacles in Life, and he says that all of us, he says we're all in a canoe, right? And the winds blow the same on all of us. We all have a sailboat, and the winds blow all the same for each of us. The wind of opportunity, right? The wind of circumstance, and negative words of people. The winds of economic change for the positive and toward the negative. There's the winds of divorce. There's the winds of meeting somebody brand new. So the winds of life blow the same on each and every one of us. So, what causes the destination? What brings us to the point where we need to go? It's not the winds that blow, it's the setting of our sail. So when we set our sails, where it concerns vision, focus, determination, we can be brought to the end result of our desires. So don't think that you're special because maybe you went through a divorce. It happens to a lot of people. Don't think you're special because your kids didn't grow up right. That happens to the best of us. The wind blows. It's not the wind that determines your destination. It's the setting of your sail. Okay? The law of recognition number 7. You've got to have a starving crowd. Now, how many of you been out and you worked on a construction site, right?
Yep.
And different places, and they have these things called,
Chuck wagon,
coach,
roach coach.
roach coach. What do you call them? That's a disgusting name. Roach coach. I'm gonna go with, have any of you eaten a roach coach?
What do you call a truck stop?
That's what you call it, yeah. You know, and it's amazing because, what is it?
Choke and puke.
The amazing thing is that truck comes up, pulls up, and you know those construction workers or office workers, whoever, warehouse workers, they come scattering out and they're eating that food. Why? They're hungry, right? So you gotta have a starving crowd. I mean, think about it. You're in the desert, okay? You're in the desert. You haven't had water. You're thirsty. You're wondering if you're going to make it. You're just almost on your hands and knees. You're ready to drop. You think if you're going to, any moment you're going to die. And suddenly, you see it in the distance, a small shelter built. And you go there, and you walk, you break the door in, and you think maybe I can get some shade in here. And inside there, you find a glass, kind of a jar, and there's water. Wonderful water on the bottom of it. The problem is, it's been sitting there for a while. It's got stuff growing on top of it. If you're thirsty enough, what will you do? You'll drink it. If it's life or death, you'll drink it. Somebody comes along, you're hungry, and they give you something to eat, and you're starving, and you're going to die. I don't care how crusty, moldy that piece of bread is, you'll probably eat it. Okay? So, you've got to have a starving crowd. So a lot of people, they create an idea first, right? And I know that if you're in a certain industry, I mean, obviously you're going to gravitate toward ideas around that industry or whatever, where you're working. So what's going to happen is you're going to tend to, create a product. Well, hopefully you're stopped long enough to go, okay, is there a starving crowd? Are there people willing to pay to remove the pain of whatever it is they're enduring, right now with this idea? The next thing, of course, know your customer. Who's your customer? Who you selling this to? And what we'd like to do is create an avatar. Get in your mind exactly who that customer is. And the more specific you are, right, Debra? The more specific you are, the more successful you'll be, because you'll be able to target that market. If you don't know who you're marketing to, then you're going to just be shooting in the dark. You'll be just like a shotgun, you're a hunter out there in the middle of nowhere, just shooting in the air. So, here's some examples of what an avatar is. It would be an overall group of people, okay? A gender, a male or female. Education, what are they? Are they highly educated? Are they never graduated? what kind of education those people have. Profession, what kind of profession are these people in? What kinds of things? And I think you kind of came up with some professions, you know, you've got roofers, you've got,
Bricklayer.
yeah, you've got, so,
Stucco guy.
all right, so you get, what is the income level of these people that you're trying to market to? Geolocation, is there geolocation, is it something specific? Are these people that are just in where the snow flies? Is it rain a lot there? Is it family and lifestyle? So the more specific you can get about these things and have that written out, the more zeroed in you'll be on your market. Online activity. What's this going to tell you? Are they on Facebook? Are they on LinkedIn? Are they over on Google Plus? Are they in groups, user groups? Or where are they hanging out? Where are these people at? Because why? Because you want to reach them. Authority or trusted figures. So this is another way that if you can understand what the authority figures are in that, you know, in that group of people that you're marketing to, then you can go to those people. There's three different things you can do. You can joint venture with those authority figures. Okay? You can joint venture. You can also, through software, you can go into, like what I'm doing right now, into Google Plus, and what I do is I look at the people I want to reach. Okay? I found out who's the guru in that space, and then I target all their followers. The software goes and adds them to my Google Plus, into my circle. So if I do that 300 people a day, and then every day, so well, some of those people will add me back, right? I want them to add me back, and so when they add me back, that's the people I want to work with. And every day I delete all the people that did not follow me. So every morning I delete 300 people, and I add 300 people. Delete 300 people, add 300 people. Why do I want to do that? Because there's a thing called Google Hangouts. Google Hangouts is a great educational tool, a webinar, where I can then create a webinar, and that event goes, and I can advertise to all those people, all 5,000 people, or 10,000 people, whatever it is. I can't remember what the limits are about my event. So I'm going to fill up my event, so I can talk to them. Are these people if I got my avatar, if I understand this, are those people have a propensity to respond to me? Yes? They'll respond. So right there is what you can do with this information. And there's a lot of other things you can do. Okay? So with that, that's the end of what I've got here now on this section. If you want to talk about anything else about crowdfunding or whatever you want to ask, I'll hand it back to you.
Let's open any questions. I'm particularly interested in what you were talking about, Google Events and how that works.
Yeah, and I use a piece of software called, and there's several of them out there. The one I use is pretty inexpensive. I am affiliate to that. So if you're interested, let me know. And it's called Fusion Webinar, Webinar Fusion, Webinar Fusion. Very inexpensive. I think it was just a one-time, I don't know now. I think it's just a one-time cost. It's very inexpensive. And what I like about that is that I can, it takes the registration page, I create a registration page that you can send that out to my Google Plus people, whoever, stays there. You know, now I can come back and people can come back at any time, register, I can send them to that, I can actually make it look like a real webinar when it's actually kind of a recorded version. So there's a lot of different things you can do with that, and technology is, you know, there's so much you can do, and I suggest you don't get buried in it, and the only reason we got buried is because we didn't have